The 2022 International Conference on Brucellosis brought together the scientific community of the entire planet at the Corso of Giulianova, a coastal town in the province of Teramo. From 16 to 19 September, scientists and representatives of institutions and major international organizations, such as the Ministry of Health, the European Commission, the European Food Safety Authority, the World Organization for Animal Health, and FAO, shared and debated knowledge and new strategies in defeat brucellosis.
Written together with the vice chair of the conference.
It was an important scientific event organized by the IZS of Abruzzo and Molise on behalf of the International Brucellosis Society, which saw the participation of about 270 researchers from the most important public scientific authorities and universities from all over the continents of the world. 4 days of study on the factors that influence the emergence, reemergence, and spread of this disease, which certainly affects animals but is also transmissible to humans. For brucellosis, the IZS of Teramo is a reference laboratory of the World Organization for Animal Health and a national reference center.
Sì, in effetti siamo orgogliosi perché ci hanno assegnato l'organizzazione di questo congresso dopo la pandemia e dopo 6 anni che non si organizzava l'International Congress of Brucellosis. È un segno di riconoscimento nei nostri confronti dell'attività che svolgiamo da più di 20-30 anni contro questa malattia molto grave degli animali, che è trasmissibile anche all'uomo.
L'IZS che ruolo svolge nel mondo in questa ricerca?
Intanto in Italia è centro di referenza nazionale per la brucellosi ed è anche centro di referenza internazionale sotto l'egida dell'ex OIE, oggi WOAH, Organizzazione Mondiale della Sanità Animale.
Brucellosis is one of the most common zoonotic infections worldwide. In Italy, the disease is still present and persists mainly in some regions of southern Italy and in particular in Sicily. As explained by Fabrizio De Massis, veterinary director of the IZS of Teramo, head of the reference laboratory for brucellosis of the World Organization for Animal Health and scientific director of the 2022 conference.
È una grande opportunità per tutti gli scienziati a livello mondiale, perché è un'opportunità che si coglie ogni 4-5 anni nel mondo e serve per scambiare informazioni, conoscenze e nuove scoperte nel campo della brucellosi. Nei prossimi giorni di questo convegno scambieranno esperienze in modo da aiutare anche i decision makers a combattere questa malattia con lo scopo finale di eradicarla da questo pianeta.
In Giulianova, during the 2022 International Conference, researchers discussed the latest advances in understanding the biology, virulence, and evolution of the genus Brucella, developments in diagnostic procedures, tools for surveillance and control, as well as the impact of the disease on the world economy and trade. Dr. Keith Sumption of FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, in his speech recalled how zoonotic diseases have caused many epidemics and problems for men's health in recent years. Being able to control them becomes their primary objective.
Conference and this discussion on brucellosis comes at a very important time in our international thinking on the control of diseases, zoonoses, that are ones that pass from animals to man. It comes at a time when we are considering how do we better improve our control of diseases coming from animals, which have included in the past major epidemics, pandemics affecting human health. So brucellosis has been amongst our animal populations and affecting human populations for hundreds of years. The improvements being made around the world in the understanding are really critical for us to be able to move from understanding to be able to start to do the right type of work with our animal populations to really reduce the risk to the human population. So this way, brucellosis fits into our international fight against diseases which come from animals to man.
But thanks to vaccines, what will be the prospect of a cure for brucellosis in the coming years? The challenges are many, as Professor Angela Arenas of Texas University explains. The first concerns the creation of increasingly effective vaccines. The second, the adoption of a global and strategic vaccination plan in all countries.
What is the situation of vaccines and what will be the future perspectives?
So first, I just want to say vaccination is very important for all the animal species. Right now, we're in the work to get better vaccines. We do have some vaccines that actually provide good protection in cows and in sheep, small ruminants. However, we can do better. So that's what we're aiming for. I think we have to be hopeful. There's hope. There's good advances in the work, and it's gonna happen. But I just want to remind how important it is, vaccinations for the control of infectious diseases.
What is the greatest and the hardest challenge? The scientific one, that is to say developing new vaccines, or the global health challenge, that is to say the implementation of a vaccination plan?
I think it's both. We have two completely different challenges. It's like we're talking about Brucella, which is a bacterium. It's not a virus. It's huge. It's not as easy to create like the best vaccine in a very little amount of time like we do have with some other stuff. So we are advancing slowly. One of the reasons is because the problem is not in the developed countries, it's in under resource limited settings. So the amount of funds available, and it's significantly lower compared to a disease that would be, for example, present in the US or in other parts, Australia, etc. The second challenge is vaccine adoption and implementation. We do have to engage the public, stakeholders, everybody, starting from the small animal farmer all the way to politicians. So that's not an easy task. We do need to promote vaccination awareness, the benefits, the disadvantages, and be sure that everybody's invested in that process.
Researchers have long discussed the evolution that brucellosis has had in recent years and what future scenarios conceivable for the spread of this disease. Dr. Claire Ponsard, in charge of the European Laboratory for Brucellosis in Paris, recalled that still today there are 500,000 cases of brucellosis in the world. In Europe, however, the numbers go down thanks to the control programs.
The disease is still a very important disease worldwide. We have around 500,000 human cases per year in the world, and especially some countries in South Africa, Asia, Middle East, Mediterranean countries are still endemic with a high rate of infection. In Europe, we have a very favorable trend with quite a lot of countries which were able to eradicate the disease in ruminants thanks to good programs of control. So we hope that in the future we will have the opportunity to continue this kind of control programs using better vaccines, using testing strategies with high performances in order to detect infected animals. We also may have better epidemiological tools in order to trace back and some of the infections. Finally, the goal would be to eradicate the disease, because we know that the number of human cases is highly related to the number of cases in ruminants. So if you decrease the disease prevalence in ruminants, you will automatically decrease the number of human cases. So it's a question of public health. And with better tools, we hope to have better results. So that's why that's the future for the next years.
Which is David O'Callaghan from France, which I introduce you because he is so important.
Particularly interesting was a speech by Dr. David O'Callaghan of the French University of Montpellier in Nîmes, France's National Conference Center for Brucellosis. During the international conference organized by the IZS of Teramo, the researcher reported on the discovery of new strains of Brucella present in the environment and on new technologies to detect them.
Brucellosis, when we talk about brucellosis, we're normally talking about ovine caprine brucellosis, bovine caprine, which are Brucella melitensis and Brucella suis and Brucella abortus. And these are strains which have been transported across the world over the last several hundred years with animals. So they're the ones which are most commonly found and cause disease in humans. But in the last 20 or so years, we've been finding new different strains in the environment. And these strains have always been there. And it's just now that our microbiological techniques are far better to actually identify these strains, find these strains, identify and characterize them. At the moment, many of them perhaps aren't a problem for humans at the moment, but they could be. And so we have to be very careful in the future to know that these strains are, to analyze these strains and assess these strains to see whether they actually can cause disease. For example, my colleague Anne Kiriel will give a presentation at the end of the session about a new strain of Brucella which we found in the Amazon jungle, in the Amazon forest in French Guiana. So these are new strains which are there all the time, which can perhaps cause disease in humans. But the problem is that humans aren't in contact with them. So that's the major reason that people aren't getting this ill, because they're not in contact with them. Another important thing to say is that the changes in the nomenclature and the taxonomy, putting Ochrobacterium as part of Brucella, is also causing a huge problem, and this needs to be changed back to the old-fashioned system.
After 4 days of close confrontation, the 2022 International Conference on Brucellosis was successfully concluded. A success due not only to the presence of the greatest experts in the world on this disease, but also to the logistical organization put in place by the IZS of Teramo. Accomplices in the success of the event, the sea and the son of Giulianova, together with the excellent culinary specialties of Abruzzo.